Good morning, everybody. As you can see, I'm on location. I'm down at Leaning Pete Wheeler's cabin. I appreciate them letting me use it for a couple of days. I've been able to come down and plan some sermons, figure out what I want to preach over the next few months. It's been really helpful, but I'm still here, and as you can see, it's sort of a gray, overcast day out here, but still really nice on the lake. This coming Sunday is Transfiguration Sunday, and a lot of our churches will be preaching something related to the Transfiguration. And if you remember, that's the time in Jesus' ministry, he takes Peter, James, and John up on top of a mountain, and while he's up there, he, as they're looking on, he's transfigured. He begins to shine radiantly white. And Moses and Elijah appear with him, and the disciples are left just sort of dumbfounded, speechless. And I'm going to reflect for a couple of minutes this morning on one of the other passages for this week, for this Sunday. The lectionary epistle reading is from 2 Corinthians. Now, the Corinthian church they were Paul's problem child. He had founded a lot of churches, visited a lot of churches, and the Corinthians, they were his problem child. So here's what he said to them. This is 2 Corinthians 4, 3 through 6. And even if our gospel is veiled, it is veiled to those who are perishing. In their case, the God of this world has blinded the minds of the unbelievers to keep them from seeing the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. For what we proclaim is not ourselves, but Jesus Christ is Lord, with ourselves as your servants for Jesus' sake. For God, who said, "Let light shine out of darkness," has shone in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. And that's the epistle reading for this week. I'm preaching on Mark's account of it, which is just and the gospel accounts are all fairly similar. And Paul, writing here to his problem children, he refers to something being unveiled and to light, but not so much the physical transfiguration of Jesus himself. What he's writing about is that this idea that the glory of Christ and the gospel was veiled to those poor Corinthians, or at least some of their number. The gospel was being veiled. And so what's causing that? What's going on there? How is it that the Word of God can be veiled sometimes? And what Paul says is that the God of this world, the little g God of this world, was veiling it. The God of this world was veiling it and trying to blind them and blind us sometimes to the Word. Which simply means that the devil is always out there and trying to muddy the water, trying to create fog where there shouldn't be fog. This reminds me, when I was a kid, I guess I was in high school, and Daddy and I went duck hunting over at Core Banks. I grew up in Carteret County. We were in a little community called Gloucester, and we went over to Core Banks, which was, I don't remember how far it is over there, maybe a couple of miles. And we went over there, got our decoy set out, and while we were there, the fog rolled in, and it was thick. And when it rolled in, it settled in, and we could not see a thing. And this was on Christmas Eve, and actually we almost ended up spending Christmas Eve night on Core Banks because the fog was so thick. You literally couldn't see. It was one of those days where The air was unusually warm and the water's really cold, and you have that much temperature difference between cold water and warm air. It created this blanket of thick fog, and we could not see a thing. And that's, I think, sort of what Paul is trying to bring to mind for us, that sometimes the fog settles in. The God of this world puts fog in our lives, puts fog in our hearts, so that we can't see, and trying to obscure the light of the glory of Christ. Now, there is good news to this. There is good news to this. The bad news is that the God of this world is always trying to create confusion, to put fog where there shouldn't be. You know, fog so that we can't get home, just like Dad and I had trouble getting home many years ago. But here's the good news, that the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. That's from John's prologue. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Yes, the God of the world can and does create all sorts of doubt and fog, can obscure the glory of Christ. But as servants of Christ and as followers of Jesus, we are called to carry his light and to reflect his light. We aren't merely passive as believers, as followers of Jesus. It is our calling to bear the light of Christ, to reflect it. There's no light inside of us. How much light does the moon generate? Zilch. But what does the full moon do? Full moon is so bright, sometimes it can cast a shadow. We don't generate any light of ourselves, but we can reflect the all-surpassing light that is the radiance of Jesus Christ. And this is a light which no amount of darkness sown by the God of this world can ever overcome. So, I hope that you have a great rest of your Wednesday. Enjoy your cup of coffee. Have a good one.